Problem areas can arise in every garden, whether they are excessively dry, too hot, too shaded, or too wet. Despite the difficulties that come with working in the shade, gardeners shouldn't let that discourage them. Many plants thrive in partial shade and produce fragrant flowers, lush foliage, and even fruit. For a rundown of the top shade-loving plants, check out the list. Number 1. Mona Lavender. Mona Lavender is a low-growing, easy-to-maintain shrub that thrives in partly shaded areas. It requires somewhat acidic, wet, and well-drained soil to flourish in the outdoors. Intriguingly, Mona Lavender is one of those plants whose blooms bloom in response to the changing seasons. When exposed to indirect bright light, their purple hue intensifies. In the early spring, when blooming is at its peak, apply a liquid fertilizer. Zones 10 to 11 are ideal for growing Mona Lavender. Number 2. Sweetbox. In Australia, sweetbox is a compact evergreen shrub that is easy to care for and will flourish in partially shaded or fully shaded areas. The tiny, fragrant white flowers that bloom in the fall are a welcome reward for gardeners who tend to sweet boxes. After it flowers, give it a gentle trim if it needs it, and you may also clip back any straggly stems if you want it to look neater. Due to their modest growth rate, any of the 11 species that make up this Carcococca family would be perfect for a tiny garden or walkway that requires access. Growing sweetbox is best done in zones 7 to 9. Number 3. Spotted dead nettle. Because they look like stinging nettles, which makes them unappealing to animals, lamiums are often known as spotted dead nettles. Deadheading after each bloom, as is customary with perennials, will stimulate a second wave of blossoms. During the growing season, just apply an all-purpose liquid fertilizer to encourage healthy development. The optimal growing conditions for spotted dead nettle are zones 4 to 8. Number 4. Foamflower. It thrives in partial or complete shade, where its frothy, multi-stemmed white blossoms really shine. The foamflower does best in dry, well-drained soil, especially during the winter months. Foam flowers are equally at home in shady containers, but because they don't fare well in extreme heat, you should avoid placing them on hardscaping like patios or driveways. Because they like rich soil, you should replenish their potting mix frequently. As a deciduous perennial, they require minimal trimming beyond removing spent blossoms and dead leaves. From zones 3 through 8, foam flowers flourish. Number 5. Lungwort. Unexpectedly underappreciated for its attractiveness, this shade-loving plant surprises with its blend of tiny pink and purple flowers that grow in the spring. Cooler soil is ideal for its roots, therefore it's best not to plant it in containers. As a tiny, shade-loving plant, Lungwort is perfect for framing the front of a shady border in any backyard. Lungwort is hardy from zones 3 to 9. Number 6. Clivia Miniata. Although it requires just a tiny amount of water when it is dormant in the winter, Clivia, like other amaryllis species, thrives when watered often, especially when the soil is dry. The ideal spot for this tall shade-loving border plant would be halfway back along the border, away from any smaller shade-loving border plants that could be at the front. As long as they get some shade, Clivias do well in containers. The hardiness zones for Clivia Miniata are 9 to 11. Number 7. Oakleaf Hydrangea. Like other hydrangeas, it flowers in the summer with cream flowers growing up a spire-shaped stem. In the autumn, the leaves turn a lovely red and orange. Oakleaf hydrangeas like partial shade in the afternoon and sun in the morning. It needs well-drained soil that is slightly acidic, with a feed at the start of the growing season, and then partway through to ensure a longer growing season. If you want to retain the plant size and just do a light shaping, then spring is the time to prune. But if you want to prune to the ground to keep this shade-loving plant small, then prune after the flowers have finished. Oakleaf Hydrangea hardy in zone 5 to 9. Number 8. Giant Lilyturf. Originating in Japan, the giant Lilyturf is a versatile plant that thrives in both full and partial shade. Giant Lilyturf can thrive in moderately moist soil and doesn't require watering unless the weather is really hot and dry for an extended period of time. It's not a picky plant because all it needs is a light trim to get rid of spent blossoms and leaves. You may also grow it in pots, but you need to plant it under trees and make sure the pot is big enough to accommodate it. It is hardy in zones 6 to 11. Well, thanks for watching video from Catchy Garden. Don't forget to click like and subscribe button to always support our channel. You can also turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos from us. We'll see you in the next videos.